A single mother was rejected for bringing her child to the interview until the Millionaire CEO walked in. The story opens on the gleaming marble floors of Grant & Cohen's, where the sound of heels echoed like a metronome measuring who belonged. Hiring manager Brenda Cole appeared with razor-sharp precision hair, tied high, blazer-fitted chin, slightly lifted her voice, thin but cutting. Opposite her stood Autumn Hayes, a slender black woman back straight, though the cuffs of her shirt were frayed left arm, clutching a manila folder like the only shield she had in this lavish lobby. At her side was Ellie, her 3-year-old daughter, a black girl with natural curls tied into 2 little puffs, bouncing at every step, wearing a pale blue dress her mother had pulled from a donation bin and washed by hand the night before. If you looked closely, you'd see the hem already worn, but the dress was clean pressed. Her tiny shoes shined bright. Everything spoke of scarcity met with dignity. "You brought a child to an interview." Brenda cut the air with a question that wasn't meant to be answered. It wasn't a sentence, it was a verdict. Her eyes swept the room, ensuring the receptionist and security guards understood a line of professionalism had been crossed. "We screen for professionalism, not babysitting," she added each word, hitting the marble like a metal lid snapping shut. Autumn replied softly but firmly. "I couldn't leave her alone. I arrived on time and I brought all my documents." In a place where etiquette was currency, she chose to state facts rather than plead. Ellie tucked behind her mother, wide eyes catching her reflection, scattered across endless panes of glass. Then a thud. A paper cup left on the reception counter was knocked over by Ellie's small hand. A ring of cold liquid spread thin across the marble. Autumn dropped to her knees at once, pulling a crumpled pack of tissues from her bag, wiping each drop as if erasing her own fault. No one helped. No one spoke. Only the clack of keyboards broke the silence, as if the whole lobby had signed a pact we see but we'll pretend we don't. If you stood there, you'd feel the invisible gravity dragging this mother down, not from the weight of spilled water, but from the weight of judgment. In that frame, Autumn's scuffed heels pressed a fresh scratch into the marble, a tiny mark that spoke volumes about the cost of simply showing up. Ding! The elevator opened. Out stepped Logan Whitmore, 35, charcoal suit tie knotted with ease, the calm poise of a man accustomed to being watched. But today his gaze faltered not at the spill, but at the sight of a mother wiping the floor while others averted theirs. From the CEO's seat, Logan had seen hundreds of resumes, thousands of meetings. But the real tests of integrity never came with the syllabus. They erupted in moments like this. "What brings you here, miss?" His voice dropped just enough for her to hear, just enough for the room to register that the rules had shifted. "Autumn Hayes," she said, standing still, clutching damp tissues. "Please, have a seat." Logan pulled out a chair in the waiting area, a simple gesture that redrew the frame from defendant at the counter to candidate being heard face to face. Brenda jumped in at once. "Mr. Whitmore, this applicant brought a child." Logan neither frowned nor raised his tone. "I see that. I also see she arrived on time with her documents. Let her tell her story." With that, the balance of power tilted. The receptionist straightened, the guard stepped back, eyes retreated to screens. Ellie climbed onto her mother's lap, tugging at her shirt hem. Autumn placed a steadying hand on her back. No one was rescuing anyone here. What happened was the return of humanity to a meeting stripped of it. From a storyteller's lens, this was the spark. The antagonist wasn't one person, but the culture of rigid professional optics exposed. The protagonist, Autumn, held her dignity under pressure. And the pivot character, Logan, chose to swap lenses from optics' surface image to ethics, fairness, and humanity. We hear him say, "Take your time. Start wherever feels right to you." What sounded like procedure was in truth the restoration of personhood to a woman reduced moments ago to a problem. If we were to note the motifs, 3 images would grow and echo throughout cold marble versus human warmth, tissues soaking up water versus gestures soaking up exhaustion, and the elevator's ding marking shifts in power. The first ding signaled Logan's entrance, but only when he pulled out that chair did the story truly change lanes. From here, every word and small motion would build toward the evidence. Real professionalism isn't the absence of children, but the presence of respect, especially when someone is trembling in silence. Take your time. Start wherever feels right, Logan said, elbows resting on his knees, leaning slightly forward. That shifted the lobby from a stage of appearances into a real interview one with listening, understanding standards but no intimidation. Autumn drew a breath. I'm applying for the administrative support position. I saw the posting. I thought it could be a new beginning. Her voice didn't shake. It was tired, but steady. The steadiness of someone who had fallen many times yet always rose on time. Why now? Logan asked. The question wasn't about fault, but about motive. Because I can't wait any longer. Autumn looked down at Ellie, smoothing the pale blue dress washed by hand, as if pressing out the wrinkles of the day. 2 years ago, my husband died in an accident. I was 23. My parents passed when I was a teenager. My in-laws cut ties after the funeral. I've been raising Ellie alone. I've taken any job I could get: cafe shifts, retail, late-night cleaning. At night, I studied online for an office certificate. I applied here because I heard Grant & Co. runs internal training. I thought if I could just get in the door, I'd teach myself the rest. Logan flipped through her resume, plain, neat, unembellished. You're still studying, yes, after Ellie's asleep. A few at the reception desks had stopped typing as if the story had pulled them out of their neutral posture. At this point, the original narration notes a pause. The room seemed to suspend judgment to listen. The author called it the moment it held breath, the space between reproach and understanding. Why bring your child today? Logan didn't sidestep the hard question. Because this week I couldn't afford childcare. Last Friday we lost our home and we're staying in a weekly motel. I couldn't leave her alone, not even for an hour. Here, Autumn wasn't asking for lowered standards. She was giving context. She knew it looked unprofessional to some. She also knew this chance might not come twice. So she came with her documents on time and without hiding the truth. Brenda jumped in as if afraid the rules were slipping. We can reschedule. Next time without the child. It sounded like reassurance, but was really dismissal. Logan raised a hand, a light cut. She came, and she prepared. We finish this now. One line, but it reset the order here. Professionalism wasn't defined by excluding imperfection, but by measuring ability within reality. You could call it a redefinition of professionalism itself. When it came time for a decision, Logan didn't stall. Are you ready to take a 2-week trial position, entry-level office support? You'll report directly to me. The lobby seemed to hold its breath again. Autumn blinked, unsure she'd heard right. Yes, of course, yes. Logan nodded. HR will have the paperwork today. You start Monday. We have daycare here. We'll arrange a spot for Ellie. Brenda looked as if she'd swallowed a lemon, but Logan had already fastened his jacket button, shifting from listening to execution. That was leadership. No speech, no charity, just the right decision based on what he'd seen. The final beat of that meeting belonged to Ellie. She dug in her pocket, pulled out a slightly crumpled heart-shaped sticker, and handed it to Logan as a small ritual of trust. He accepted without hesitation, sticking it onto his planner, the book of deadlines, OKRs, M&As, as if anchoring a different kind of priority. Later, that sticker would become a motif, a paper heart with adhesive frayed at the edges, enough to remind him to change his lens. In the corporate world, so much is measured in numbers. The sticker measured nothing. yet recalibrated everything people first process after, and then build the process so kindness isn't left to chance. Don't mistake this for pity. Autumn wasn't forgiven for bringing her child. She was respected for showing up on time, prepared, honest, accountable. Logan didn't bend the rules out of sentiment. He set a precedent, evaluate competence in the reality of workers' lives, and provide structured daycare scheduling so performance isn't bought at the cost of humanity. Brenda might stay irritated as old systems do when pushed, but from that moment the board had shifted the power to define professionalism, no longer sat only with the gatekeepers. Dramatically, Part 2 sealed the first reversal. The rejected became the invited. The child once seen as a nuisance became central to design daycare, and the interview meant for a closed room was restored in the middle of the lobby. Thematically, this section nailed down 2 arcs. 1, ethics over optics, and 2, institutionalizing compassion, moving from individual goodwill to structural support. Symbolically, we pocket 3 objects: the manila folder, preparedness in scarcity, the damp tissue taking responsibility even when fault isn't yours, and the heart sticker, a reminder to see with compassion but act with planning. When Autumn rose, holding Ellie in one arm and her folder in the other, eyes misted but dry, the lobby softened. No fanfare, no applause. Only a door opening the kind many assume has an adult's only lock. Logan leaned down, told Ellie, "You did great today." She smiled, nodded, her little puffs bouncing like 2 tiny exclamation points. This was no longer just an interview. It was a beginning for a second chance that would reshape not only one life, but the very definition of leadership that cares. Monday morning, the city's clocks haven't even warmed up, and Grant & Co. is already lit. Logan Whitmore keeps a schedule like a score that doesn't permit a wrong beat. 5:30 alarm, 1 black coffee with no sugar, 20 minutes of push-ups, plank, squats, 6:00 inbox sweep, quick pen strokes through the planner. 6 to 45, the car pulls up. 7:15, the office glass doors open to a view straight down into traffic like a living circuit board. He sets the planner on his desk, the leather slightly worn at the edges, and on Monday's page there's a child's heart-shaped sticker crooked at one corner, the adhesive peeking out a little. No one at the company knows why it's there. They only notice that from that day on, Logan closes his planner less often, as if leaving it open invites him to see differently. Down in HR Autumn, Hayes moves through paperwork so quickly the secretary looks up twice. The resume is tidy references interrupted but clean. Sign here, here and here. Autumn finishes, hurries to daycare, hugs Ellie tight, and inhales the smell of her shampoo, cheap citrus familiar, and turns to go. Then steps back and whispers, "If you want to draw, ask for paper, okay, I'll come down at lunch." Ellie presses her palms together and nods, her 2 curly puffs bouncing. Autumn's new workstation is a small cubicle by a window, a faded Excel shortcuts poster taped to the wall. She boots up, opens the onboarding admin support module, and reads every line: ticket intake, flow, file naming conventions, expense approval steps. When she hits a term she doesn't know, she opens her notebook, writes it down, and double underlines it. "Hayes need an extra monitor?" a low male voice asks. She looks up. Hector Ruiz, dark blue janitorial uniform, arms around a trash bin he's just rebagged. He's older, mustache peppered with gray eyes of someone used to being avoided. Autumn smiles. "Maybe not yet. But I don't know how to adjust the monitor stand." Hector is startled by the warm "I and you," then points to a small latch under the base. "Thanks, sir, let me try." She lowers the screen to eye level and suddenly breathes easier. At 10, Logan loops through the pods. His expression doesn't change much, but he lingers longer behind Autumn. On her screen is version control for shared drives, the section many new hires skip. She takes notes in a very mom way, little checkboxes arrows to actions, timestamps neat and clear. All good? He asks softly. Yes, I'm reading the versioning section. That one's a lifesaver in the jungle, he says, and moves on. By lunch, the break room hums with microwave beeps. Autumn opens her container, pasta boiled in hot water, tossed with olive oil, a handful of thawed, frozen veggies. Hector sets his tray 2 seats away, the habit of someone who's learned not to bother anyone. Autumn looks at her meal, then at his just dry bread and coffee. She cuts her sandwich and half wraps one piece in a napkin and slides it over. I have extra. The word extra catches in her throat, technically untrue, but the way she says it makes it true, extra kindness. Hector looks up, flustered. No need. Eat with me. If I don't talk all day, my throat hurts, she jokes lightly. Hector smiles and accepts. Chairs scrape somewhere else, but nobody comes closer. Kindness is sometimes treated like a breach of protocol. In the afternoon, a ticket from accounting drops into the queue. Autumn opens it, reads it 3 times, checks the attachments list, sees a missing digital signature, and refuses to guess. She sends a brief, polite email asking for it with a screenshot of the empty field and a blue arrow pointing to it. 10 minutes later, the reply arrives with thanks rare and a note clear. She checks the clock, 4:55. Daycare closes at 5 euro. 5 more minutes would make her late. She closes her laptop, exhales, and runs. Ellie barrels into her, hugging her legs. I drew a butterfly. It's beautiful, just like... She stops, swallows the name Lily that suddenly surfaced for no reason she can place. Tuesday. Ellie coughs. Daycare calls up, slight fever, 100 dos. Oh, can you come sit with her a bit? Autumn asks for 20 minutes. When she returns, Jenna at the opposite desk glances at the clock. We're not a daycare. Autumn looks up. I made up last night's reports. That's not the point, Jenna snaps. The words land like a pebble tossed into a glassy lake. Logan happens to walk by and hears it all. He turns voice calm. Jenna, you can leave early today. But early, that's clear. Jenna presses her lips together, gathers her papers, and goes. Autumn stands still, saying nothing. Logan looks at her. You okay? Yes. He nods. Take tomorrow off. She blurts. I don't want to you didn't cause anything. You deserve it. He leaves immediately, not long enough for her to feel obliged to pay with gratitude. That night, Logan sits alone in his breezy penthouse. Mist scratches pale lines on the glass. He pours water and sets the glass by the planner. The heart sticker brushes his fingertip. Memory yanks him back to 15 minutes of age 12. That night, he'd fought with his parents about going out. He snuck off to meet a friend at the top of the hill, 15 minutes only. Suburbs, warm, yellow lights. Lily 7 had built a blanket fort in the living room lamp on dolls in a row. A careless bump toppled the lamp. Fabric touched the bulb. Flames raced through old cotton. Neighbors said she probably didn't wake up. Adults offered she went peacefully. Only one boy stayed awake forever. He pulls his hand back, inhales, shuts his eyes. In the years after he built an iron order to throw the blame off himself, KPIs, procedures, control. At Grant & Co., no one argued if he anchored everything to efficiency. But that morning in the lobby for the first time, he saw how efficiency blurs when you look through the wrong lens. Wednesday. Autumn arrives 10 minutes early. She sweeps through the shared drives, finds misnamed folders, and standardizes them to YIIMD no project ANOS department. She doesn't touch content, only straightens the path so people get lost less often. At 9:30, Hector stops by coffee machine jammed a pod. Autumn doesn't work in facilities, but she opens the manual, tab removes the tray, hits reset. The machine wheezes, then runs hot like it just shook off a cold. "Wow, you're good." "No, I just read the manual." The answer makes Hector smile. What folks call talent is sometimes just patience. Near noon, Logan steps out of a meeting and stops at the end of the hall. Through frosted glass, he can see Autumn and Hector sitting across from each other, that sandwich cut precisely in half again. He can't hear them, only sees Autumn slide the other half over hands, resting lightly, as if ready to pull back if he's uncomfortable. Sees Hector nod slowly, mouth forming gracias like a reflexive shield. Warmth moves through Logan's chest, neither pity nor moral glee, just a sense of rightness closer to happiness than triumph. Afternoon, another call from daycare. Ellie's fever is gone, but she's tired and wants her mom for a minute. Autumn checks the time, does the math, asks for 15 minutes. When she returns, there's a yellow sticky on her desk, report C17, clear, nice catch on signature. LW. She picks it up, her brow unfurling a bit. She knows busy handwriting, compact, sharp, slanted right, but this line lingers on the word nice, as if the writer slowed down for half a second. Wednesday night, the motel room smells faintly of bleach. Autumn sits on the bed's edge, turns off the lamp so Ellie can sleep, opens her laptop, and continues the module on purchasing requests. In the approval permission section, she thinks of the way Logan cut off Jenna short, clear, without humiliating anyone. If she ever gets to allocate class slots for single parents, she'll borrow that cadence clarity without shaming. That night, Logan opens his planner again. He presses the sticker down, firmer, afraid it might fall. The rain has stopped. A summer sentence surfaces in his mind: "Don't wait for the world to be kind, make it kind." He can't recall where he heard it, but it matches the way Autumn renamed folders split a sandwich and asked for exactly 15 minutes. He closes the planner, palms the cover, and feels as if his hand is resting on a small heartbeat that isn't his, yet keeps him alive. Thursday morning, Jenna doesn't show. The break room quiets. Hector brings Autumn a new plastic cup, pale yellow with a butterfly on it. For Ellie, he says, face a little sheepish as if breaking some rule. Autumn takes it, her smile reaching her eyes. At lunch, she carries it down to daycare and hands it to Ellie. The little girl hugs it and squeals. Butterfly, her puffs bounce adorable. On their way back up at the end of the corridor, Logan is signing a stack of files. He looks up and catches the scene. He smiles a non-corporate smile. Autumn pauses half a beat and nods. They don't speak. In the afternoon, the analytics team pings for help standardizing docs. Autumn proposes a one-page PDF naming template with before and after examples. Someone DMs, "This should be IT's job." Autumn replies, "If it helps people get lost less, anyone can do it." The message is marked "Seen no reply," but 3 hours later the whole team is using it. At day's end, as Logan walks by, his optimizer's eye notices it, less friction the flow, moving a touch smoother. He doesn't praise it out loud. He records it in habit, not in his phone, but into a rule. Whenever you see someone make others less afraid, lower the noise around them. Friday, the wind shifts, the first rumor starts. The CEO walks by her desk a lot. It's not a storm yet, just the foggy warmth of suspicion on glass. Autumn doesn't touch it. She closes her weekly checklist modules, 1-3 standardized 2 folders, 4 tickets resolved cleanly. On the way to daycare, she detours to the break room and drops half a box of discount cookies into the free snacks bin. The note on the lid says, "Take one." She edits it with a pen, "Take if you need." One word changed, the meaning completely. At closing time, Logan stands by the elevator, checks his watch. He could head to the garage now and make his dinner with a partner. He hesitates one beat, then takes the east corridor toward Central Park. He isn't sure why. Maybe just to walk the edge off. Maybe an old instinct. When something warms inside him, he needs air. At the end of the hall, he sees that pale yellow butterfly cup in the hand of a little girl, with Puff's her mother holding her other hand, heading for the glass doors. He stops, lets them go first, keeping a respectful distance, the kind a decent person learns, close enough to be there, far enough not to crowd. And so, the weekend meets them in the park, where one sentence will become a compass for a very long time. Sunday at noon, Central Park hums with guitar chords and the smell of wet grass after rain. On the lawn by the lake, a plastic bottle is wedged in a shrub. Ellie, yellow hoodie sneakers, a little muddy, leans in to reach it. Autumn kneels, threads her arm through, pulls the bottle free, and smiles. "Okay, Ellie, where does this go?" The little girl scans like a radar, spots the bin with the recycling symbol, runs over, drops it in, then turns and throws both hands up, like she's just completed a special mission. From the shade of a tree, Logan watches from a distance, liking how the two of them move like a team. "But Mommy, why do we pick up trash that isn't ours?" Ellie asks Ernest as sunlight. Autumn smooths one of her curly puffs. "Because we don't wait for the world to be kind, honey. We make it kind." The line lands on the grass like the last raindrop finally finding dirt. Logan hears it clearly even before he steps out. He inhales and walks out of the shade. "Looks like I just found the city's newest cleanup crew." Ellie spins around. "Mr. Logan." She says his name like calling to a playground friend, not her mother's boss. They walk side by side. Autumn is surprised, but she doesn't shrink. She's wearing an old olive jacket with a zipper missing a tooth. Wind threads through the collar. "You don't usually walk here," she says, more like confirming something she's observed. "No." "Today, I figured I needed air," Logan answers, eyes on the path. Ellie tugs her mother's hand. "Pizza." The hunger of a 3-year-old comes straight out. Logan laughs rarely, this unguarded. There's a place nearby, wood-fired outdoor tables. He lifts his phone. "Should I book a table?" Autumn hesitates half a beat, her eyes flicking to the budget corner of her mind, week's rent, not fully paid milk for Ellie, good for 2 more days. But Logan is already saying, "My treat, just lunch." The way he adds just turns it from a favor into an ordinary afternoon. At an outdoor table, under a striped umbrella, Ellie colors on the paper menu, a house with big windows, smoke from the chimney curling like a string. Autumn orders a salad, Logan orders pizza plus mac and cheese for Ellie. He takes off his blazer and rolls his sleeves, shedding a layer of office skin. "What you said back there," he starts suddenly. "Beautiful." Autumn shrugs. "I just want my kid to grow up knowing kindness isn't a reward. It's what we do. You were taught that young no. I was taught to hope luck might knock someday." She smiles, the edges of her eyes a little dry. "After my husband died, I learned to perform being okay. Smile in the morning, pack at night. Life doesn't reward effort. It rewards image." Logan shakes his head, the look on his face not agreeing. "You're wrong on that part. The world may not notice, but I notice. I look at what's inside." They hold each other's gaze, not challenging, just measuring the honesty of what's been said. Ellie lifts her masterpiece. "I drew a house for us." Logan bows his head. "A masterpiece," he says with the seriousness of approving a strategy deck. After they eat, they follow the path. The wind sharpens thin clouds, dull the sun. Ellie sneezes. Autumn reaches into her bag for a small wool scarf. Before she can pull it out, Logan has slipped off his jacket and draped it over Ellie's shoulders like a move he's practiced for years. "You don't have to," Autumn starts reflexively cautious. "I do," Logan says, not loud, not asking permission. A good leader is someone who sees who's shivering in silence. The line stops Autumn cold. Somewhere in her mind, the silent shivers line up late nights cleaning with cracked hands holding in a cough. Mornings at reception desks sweat down her back spine still straight. She looks at Logan this time, not with the default look reserved for someone who might help. It's the look you give someone who stays. Have you always been like this? No. Logan smiles. I used to think it was better not to look too closely. Looking hurts. But if you don't look, then you don't know what to do. He finishes crisp. Ellie grips the jacket hem and says through it, I'm warm. Good Logan says, bending with a smile. They stop at a playground. Ellie climbs the ladder, each wrung a small victory. Autumn starts to reach up, then stops herself. Try it yourself. Logan stands nearby, not touching eyes, counting the beats like a man who learned to keep watch. When Ellie reaches the highest bar, she looks down and sees Mom and Mr. Logan both looking up. Those two gazes are very different, one used to negotiating with scarcity, one used to negotiating with abundance, but right now they match in one detail, they're full. On the way back, they pass a group of street performers. A man plays the violin a little off, but trying. Logan pulls out his wallet, ready to drop a bill. Autumn touches his wrist. Wait. She brings Ellie closer to the musician, the air sticky with hot tar. Do you want to say thank you? Ellie nods. Thank you, sir. The man looks up and smiles the kind of smile marked by many cold nights. Logan drops the money after that, not with the gesture of a benefactor, but of someone keeping time with gratitude. Later, they rest on an old wooden bench. Autumn leans back, fingers laced to hide the tear in her collar. Logan sits at an angle, watching a couple push a stroller by. He speaks like narrating to himself. On rainy days, my penthouse echoes with emptiness. Big places make the rain lose its way. Autumn answers half joke, half truth. Ellie sags against her mother's hip, eyelids dropping. Autumn says very softly, I'm grateful you changed the lens the other day, in the lobby. Sometimes it's just reminding yourself to look closer. Looking hurts, but it's worth it, he says. Dusk pulls color out of the grass. They stand. Autumn tries to return the jacket. Logan shakes his head. Keep it till tomorrow. I'll dry clean it. No need. I do, she answers, borrowing his word from lunch. He laughs short, rare-free of social static. Ellie loops her arms around her mother's neck and chirps, Does Mr. Logan have a big house, Mommy? The question makes them both flush for a second. Autumn pats her head. Big. But today, our house is the park. Logan looks at them and feels like his heart has just been measured with a new unit, the unit of staying. That night, when the penthouse elevator doors close behind him, the city maps itself across the windows like circuitry. He sets his jacket on a chair, picks up his planner and looks at the heart sticker. He writes one short line under Monday's calendar, change the lens. Childcare slots. Then another mentor track for single parents. He doesn't know how many Brendas and how many Gaineses he'll run into tomorrow, or which way the wind will shift. He only knows that right now in a park, still cooling off a little girl with puffs, is warm inside his jacket, and a mother has just taught him the simplest definition of kindness, don't wait, make. Next Monday, everything will speed up, the rumors will get louder, and optics will try to overpower ethics. But this noon hour in the park, they had a proper lunch on time, something many busy lives don't get. And sometimes a lunch taken on time is enough to tilt the axis of a lot of decisions to come. Monday morning, after that lunch in the park, the Grant & Combs elevator stopped on every floor, as if swallowing bits of stories to carry upward. Autumn Hayes arrived 15 minutes early. Hairpinned, neat white blouse, pressed sharper than usual. She'd stayed up late ironing out the last wrinkles. Ellie was dropped at daycare, clutching the yellow butterfly cup Hector had given her, chattering proudly to Miss Patel. Mommy, today I'm drawing a rainbow. I'll come see at lunchtime. Autumn kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the cheap citrus shampoo that still warmed her. The office floor greeted her with the steady hum of AC and the smell of fresh coffee. Jenna was already there. Headphones on, but her eyes cut sideways like a small blade. On Jenna's screen, the internal chat flashed half-smirking emojis. Autumn booted her computer. In the corner, the mail icon blinked IMR HR 10Z0 Conference Room B. No subject line, only the word mandatory in bold. Her heart dipped half a beat. HR summons were rarely good news. 9:05. Hector passed by with his mop cart, paused at her desk. In early today? Yes. She nodded. He glanced around, quickly lowered his voice. People talk. But you're doing good work. No matter what they say, the records tell the truth. He moved on, leaving drops of water glinting under fluorescent light. Autumn watched him go, feeling as if someone had just placed a warm hand on her shoulder. 9:20. A ping in her inbox, code of conduct refresher, a PDF about perception risk and power dynamics, blasted to all staff. Autumn read the header, knowing instantly it wasn't random. Across the row, Jenna shut her laptop and left for water. At the reception desk, two assistants whispered. One opened her phone, a blurry shot of Logan in a gray hoodie with Ellie perched on his shoulders in the park. The caption faint, but Autumn recognized the shapes. She didn't ask to see more. She had read it the night before on an anonymous forum. Words like CEO's pet golden ticket clung like dirty tape. Note 932. Logan walked past, speaking with the product VP voice low planner in hand. Through frosted glass at the hallway's end, Autumn glimpsed the little heart sticker inside his notebook. For a moment, her pulse eased. But Logan didn't stop. His schedule was blocked for 9:30, 10:15, which meant at 10:00 in Conference Room B, he probably wouldn't be there. From her chest, loneliness lifted like fog. 9:40. Miss Patel texted Ellie's fine, just had a snack. Autumn tapped back a heart emoji. She reopened her checklist ticket, C21, standardized the quarterly finance folder, proofread contract draft typos. Her hands kept rhythm, but her eyes were dragged back to the 10:00 slot like pulled by a magnet. 9:51. Brenda Cole appeared at the aisle's end. Black blazer hair, high red lips. She didn't look at Autumn, but every stride drew a chalk line of division. She paused at reception, said something. Both receptionists laughed. Autumn swallowed quietly. Thought of the motel with a leaking roof. Thought of Ellie's tiny shoes, polished carefully that morning with the edge of her blouse. Lips pressed tight like drawing a straight line. Mommy, don't forget to eat lunch today, Ellie had reminded her like a little adult. That sentence rose now, keeping her from sinking. 9:56. Tom Gaines from legal joined Brenda, manila envelope in hand. Gaines' heavy-jawed eyes of someone trained to count liabilities. Their steps weren't hurried but steady, like people already sure of the outcome. It's almost 10, Jenna muttered loud enough for two desks to hear. 9:58. Autumn stood straightened, her cuffs capped her water bottle. She sent a short email to the team. Ticket C21 has all signatures attached. Update in shared drive. She shut her screen, drew a slow breath to the bottom of her lungs. The hallway stretched longer than usual. At the corner, mirrors split her reflection into two, then 4 shadows. Hector pushed his cart from the opposite direction, stopped as if to speak, then only nodded. She nodded back. Just like her first morning in the lobby, no one helped but someone had seen. 10 Samruk. Conference Room B's door, shut blinds drawn. Inside, long wood table leather chairs, air a couple degrees colder. Brenda sat on the right, Gaines on the left. The envelope waited on the table. Have a seat, Miss Hayes. Brenda gestured across. Autumn pulled out the chair. No apology, no explanation. At times like this, dignity is the only thing you carry that no one can strip away. Gaines laced his hands. This isn't about rumors. This is about perception, legal liability, and protecting the company. Brenda leaned in. You know how much this company values optics. The photos, Autumn met her eyes. I've seen them. Gaines slid the envelope forward. Voluntary, no trouble, no mark. His voice was a padded brick wall. Autumn looked down. On the envelope, black ink spelled A. Hayes. She remembered yesterday's park, the line she'd told her daughter, "We make the world kind." She remembered the heart sticker in Logan's planner, the yellow note, "Nice, catch the motel roof dripping while Ellie slept." A mother doesn't have many choices, but she can choose how to stand. I need 1 minute. Autumn said, hand resting on the envelope as if on an old scar. Brenda leaned back, arms folded. The sooner the better, for everyone. Gaines nodded, pen poised on a blank sheet like a signpost on the road out. Autumn drew in a deep breath, like counting 1, 2, 3 before plunging into cold water. Her fingers touched the pen. The door opened. A current of cold air ran the length of the room. Logan Whitmore stood at the threshold, no tie sleeves rolled. He didn't ask permission to enter, he entered. No one coughed, no one stood. The aircon hummed louder by half a notch. Brenda shot up first. "Mr. Whitmore, this is a private." "Then open it up," Logan said. Not loud, but clear. He circled the table, stopping at Autumn's shoulder, not touching, but beside her. He looked at Brenda, then Gaines. I saw the photos. I saw the captions. I saw the so-called perceptions. His voice dropped half a tone. I approved her advancement because of competence, integrity, performance, not optics. Gaines tilted his head. Still, optics are real. Logan cut in eyes on the envelope. Optics are a frame. When the frame distorts the picture, you change the lens. Autumn's hand still rested on the envelope. She lifted her head toward him. In that instant, her shoulders drew 1 inch higher, and somehow the room warmed by half a degree. No one blinked when Logan pulled out a chair and sat beside Autumn, a position that was its own declaration, equal and at her side. Brenda adjusted the button of her blazer, trying to recover a formal tone. "No one here is questioning." "You are?" Logan said, not with anger, but with truth. "And when you question her, you're questioning me." Tom Gaines tapped his pen lightly on the table, a metronome of law and policy. "We're not attacking anyone. This is risk management. If the press—" Logan turned, cutting off the beat. "The press doesn't write our procedures. We do. And if a procedure makes good people fall through the cracks, the procedure is wrong." Brenda raised an eyebrow. "But the optics." "Then change the lens." Logan repeated each word, pressed like refocusing a scope. Gaines opened his briefcase and slid out a packet titled Voluntary Resignation A. Hayes. The first page, blank, waiting for a signature. Autumn felt their eyes pressing on her hand, the same hand that wiped spilled water in the lobby, split a sandwich in the break room, held her daughter through a fever. It didn't shake. It only felt heavy. Ms. Hayes Gaines began, his tone softened like a prayer recited for routine. "You've worked hard, no one denies that. But the company must protect itself from interpretation. This is a graceful exit. You can find another job," Brenda added, "and we'll still provide a positive reference letter." Autumn looked at him, then at Brenda. She inhaled, not to defend herself. Not to mention the leaky motel roof, the dinners of instant noodles, or the little shoes Ellie had polished that morning. She only said, "I work. I work well." One sentence, not pride, but truth. Logan leaned forward. She works well, and she was promoted for that." Gaines kept patient. Even so, the weight of capital, I am the weight of capital in this building, Logan said without raising his voice, and I'm putting it where it belongs on building fairness, not appearances. The room fell silent, as if oxygen had been sucked out. Brenda looked at him like a gatekeeper confronted with the master key. Mr. Whitmore, you can't. Logan locked eyes. I can, and I will. He turned to Autumn, lowering his voice to a register meant for two, yet clear enough the blinds could understand. You don't need to sign. You've done nothing wrong. Autumn held his gaze for a long beat, not asking permission, but checking if someone truly stood with her. She gave a small nod. Logan reached for the envelope, tore it clean. The sound of paper ripping struck like the final bar of a verdict. He dropped the halves into the steel bin. That's the procedure dealt with. Then he looked at Brenda and Gaines. The substance from today, any case tangled in optics, goes to ethics review founded by me, to make sure perception never outweighs fact. Gaines opened his mouth ready to say, there's no such process, but Logan continued, I just created it. Brenda braced against the table. You're setting a dangerous precedent. Logan gave the faintest shrug. Correct. A precedent to look at people before surfaces. The words fell, needing no exclamation point. He rose, tilted his head toward Autumn. Miss Hayes, you're dismissed from this meeting. Not from this company. The first dismissed freed her. The second anchored her. Autumn stood. She didn't say, thank you, not out of pride, but because this moment belonged not to ritual, it belonged to dignity. They stepped into the hall. The air smelled of AC footsteps echoing far away. Autumn heard her own heartbeat behind her ear, not from fear, but from being believed. They stopped at the elevator. Logan faced forward. They'll talk more. Autumn glanced at the mirrored wall, seeing their reflection a man with sleeves rolled a woman, standing straight. Let them. Logan's smile was thin, steady. I'm not afraid of noise. Neither am I. The doors slid open. They walked in side by side. Back on the floor, Jenna looked up at Autumn, passing, then dropped her eyes fast. From the far end, Hector tightened his grip on the broom handle, then eased it. Autumn returned to her desk, opened her laptop. The task pane blinked C22 pending. She placed her fingers on the keys steady as the nights she'd practiced beside Ellie's bed. In daycare, Ellie was drawing a house with wide windows and butterflies swirling a window large enough for anyone passing to look closely without distortion. By lunch, a new box of cookies appeared in the break room. The sticky note on the lid no longer read, "Take one." Someone, not Autumn, had crossed it out and written, "Take if you need." Maybe Hector. Maybe some anonymous colleague who'd just learned how to change the lens. That afternoon, Logan returned to his glass office. He opened his planner, touched the heart sticker. Beneath the line Ethics Review, he added a bullet, childcare slots, shahans. Then another mentor track, single parents, autumn lead. He closed the book. Outside, the city still roared. But now, the noise sounded like surf on shore. A backdrop to something underway shifting the frame, so the picture of people could fall back into true scale. At day's end, Autumn picked Ellie up. The little girl ran over waving her drawing of butterflies and windows. "Mommy, I made a house." Autumn hugged her, smiled. "It's beautiful." She didn't mention the meeting. She just held her daughter's hand and walked out through the glass doors. Afternoon light was thick as honey. The automatic doors opened, wind lifting her hair. She didn't know how loud the gossip would shout tomorrow. But today she walked out as someone who had been believed, and that alone changed the rhythm of her steps on the marble floor. 3 days after the HR meeting, Autumn Hayes avoided the executive floor, the way you avoid a pane of glass still smelling of disinfectant. She ate lunch early 11:15 before the break room filled and left late after 6 when the corridor lights dimmed. She skipped the West Glass elevator, choosing the one by the stockroom, a detour she hadn't noticed on her first day. It wasn't shame. The hardest part wasn't curious stares. The hardest part was being believed in a room prepared to cast her out, and that feeling clung like a heavy coat even when the air wasn't cold. All Tuesday, the code of conduct email sat in her inbox, harmless on the surface, but every time her eyes passed over it, it pricked like a burr. Jenna stayed silent. Hector rolled by with his mop cart, sometimes tapping the bucket's edge like a discreet hello he knew speaking out loud would draw the wrong attention. From daycare, Ms. Patel reported Ellie had added 2 stickers to her yellow cup, one pink butterfly, one green. "Mommy, I made my cup fly," Ellie bragged. Autumn texted back a smiley face holding the phone an extra beat before putting it down. Tuesday night, the motel room still smelled of bleach and damp carpet. Ellie slept clutching her bear. Autumn opened her laptop, studied vendor intake, then shut it because her head felt foggy. She sat staring at the glowing ceiling, asking herself, why does trust the thing Logan gave her in HR feel so heavy? In a world where suspicion is the default, when someone says, "I believe you," your heart stumbles. Tuesday night, 11:47, an email came, subject blank, from L. Whitmore. Body. You are more than what they say. You are exactly what this company needs. Don't disappear on me. Logan, 14 words no more. She read them 3 times, then turned off her phone, leaned her head against the wall, letting the weight and lightness wash through her like a small breaking wave, light, because it named her more than what they say. Heavy, because don't disappear sounded like an invitation into the light she had trained herself for years to avoid. Wednesday morning, she still took the stockroom elevator, but around 11:30 her calendar pinged Rooftop, 6:15 p.m. No subject, no agenda, no CC. She stared at the single word Rooftop and pictured every reason to decline Optic's Ellie budget motel gossip. Her finger hovered over decline. But at 6:12 that evening, Autumn stood before the rooftop door, hand on the cool metal handle, heart beating neither fast nor slow. The rooftop opened like a balcony over golden Manhattan. The breeze pulled her olive jacket closed. Logan Whitmore stood near the railing, sleeves rolled blazer folded on a steel chair. He didn't turn right away when the door clicked. He spoke first voice, even not corporate. "Thank you for coming." Autumn walked slowly, stopping at the right distance to talk without crowding. "You didn't have to, I did." He cut in, gently smiling thinly, signaling he knew he was repeating the word both of them had used all week. They didn't speak for a few seconds. Manhattan sunlight bounced fire across the windows of the opposite towers. Logan leaned his elbows on the railing. "When I was 12, my sister's name was Lily. The name was a key to a locked room. That night I fought with my parents. Snuck out. Promised 15 minutes. Lily built a fort of blankets. The lamp fell. Fabric touched the bulb. Fire spread fast. Neighbors said she probably didn't wake up. Adults said peaceful. But me, I've never slept fully since." Autumn stayed still, offering no comfort. She knew some pains aren't cushioned by, "It wasn't your fault," that would sound hollow. After that, I built iron order so I'd never misstep again. KPIs, processes, boxes. I thought control was penance. He leaned back on the chair, face tipped skyward for a second, then looked at her. "The morning you came with Ellie wiping up water, no one spilled, but everyone avoided standing straight under a lobby of judgment. I remembered why I began. Not for rankings, for people." The wind shifted. Autumn pulled her collar up, shivered. Logan half reached to drape his blazer over her shoulders, then stopped. Mid-air, remembering the ethics of distance he'd just learned presence didn't have to mean touch. He drew back, smiling at his own clumsy restraint. You don't owe anyone penance just to exist. Autumn said slowly, No one asks that of you but yourself. He turned fully toward her. I know, but it never stops asking. Silence. Real silence. City traffic blurred beneath them. When they pushed you to sign, Logan said, I knew if I let it happen, I'd be choosing silence for optics, and that would be my 15 minutes all over again. The words struck Autumn like steel vibrating. She stepped half a pace closer, quiet, as if not to break something fragile. You didn't save me in that room, she said. You stood next to me. Logan nodded. Yes, and I won't disappear. She spoke not to him but to herself, nailing a vow into soft wall. A cloud slid across the sun, cooling the city. Autumn looked down the windows below like watching eyes. She felt seen, not by people but by the stories they wanted to tell. They'll talk. Logan finished, smiling thin. I'm not afraid of noise. Autumn tilted her head. Neither am I. They stood a long time saying nothing. The rooftop widened like a waiting room for two who hadn't known they'd been waiting for each other. When the sun sank west, Logan murmured almost just a breath. You reminded me of something simple. Look closely. Close enough to hurt if necessary. Autumn lifted her gaze, eyes oddly dry. After looking, act. They both laughed, first time their laughter met without defense. Logan extended his hand, not grabbing just a quiet question. Autumn placed hers in it, warm, steady. No declaration, no promise. Just trust. The rooftop door closed behind a server carrying a tray of glasses, metal clinking briefly, then fading. Autumn pulled her hand back, smiling. Tomorrow I'll come in early. Finance just dumped a nest of old quarterly folders. Logan raised a brow. You like cleaning nests? I like keeping people from getting lost. I'll remember that, he said. They left the rooftop as the streetlights flicked on two figures side by side receding from the gold glow behind them. That night in his breezy penthouse, Logan set his planner down and wrote one line, Rooftop look close enough to hurt, then act. He touched the heart sticker. Lily, he thought for the first time, saying her name without a blade of guilt. Somewhere else in a motel room that baked by day and chilled by night, Autumn lay staring at the ceiling. She didn't ask why me, but what do I do next? The question lifted her out of the victim's role into the designer's. The next day, the city shifted winds. Rain came steady, and there are roofs that hold under rain and others that don't. Friday night, the rain came down like someone had opened a faucet in the sky. Low clouds pushed the streetlights into smeared, dull gold streaks across the asphalt. Autumn's motel room had started leaking in the afternoon, one innocent plink, then plink-plink into a steady beat. Ellie curled up on the chair, her two puffs damp with mist, whispering, Mommy, I'm cold. The power flickered out at 9:03. Darkness arrived earlier than usual. Autumn pulled a thin blanket over her daughter and held her close for warmth. She set a bucket under the leak, slid a plastic chair over to prop up Ellie's feet, then dug out an old t-shirt of hers to layer on the child. Rain hammered the window like applause for a stubborn song. Her phone had 17% battery. Logan's name sat at the top of her texts, silent since afternoon-appropriate silence. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard, then retreated. Doing it alone was a muscle she'd trained for years. Asking for help, especially from someone who'd just chosen to believe her, was its own trial. 9:18. Ellie shivered teeth, clicking. Mommy! A drop fell onto her face. Autumn wiped it fast, heart clenching. She typed powers out, roofs leaking, Ellie shivering. I'm sorry, I didn't know who else to call. Send. Less than a minute later, the phone buzzed. Logan. On my way. 15 minutes. No asking for coordinates, no scolding for the hour, no protocol, just coming. Autumn tightened Ellie's layers, wrapped her in the olive jacket, and headed down to the motel lobby in the rain. Wind cut sideways, the smell of wet asphalt rushing her nose. 15 minutes long enough to doubt, short enough to trust. A black SUV slid to the curb. Logan stepped out, opened an umbrella, and took Ellie from Autumn's arms not by snatching but by receiving like a handoff in a relay. "You're soaked," he said softly, his voice like a dry towel. "I'm fine." I know. He didn't argue, didn't sugarcoat. Door closed, heat on, lights low. Ellie tucked her head against his chest, fingers pinching a corner of his gray hoodie. Warm, she breathed, half saying, half dreaming. Autumn exhaled hard for the first time in 2 hours, shame at asking help, wrestling with relief at getting it. Logan's penthouse opened warm and quiet, soft gold lamps, dry wood floors, the faint scent of a newly redone kitchen. Towels. He handed over 2 thick for Ellie, thin for Autumn. 10 minutes later, Ellie was wrapped in a cotton robe down to her ankles, a smiling bolt of spun sugar. Autumn wore a pale blue shirt of Logan's and leggings from a donation bin he kept ready. The shirt was a little big in the shoulders but dry. Barefoot in the kitchen, she turned on the tap, set a pot and brought water to a boil. "You don't have to cook," Logan said, leaning against the quartz counter, gray hoodie and joggers making him look less city. "You drove through rain to get us. Dinner's the easy part." The water rolled. The faint, comforting smell of pasta rose and touched the ceiling like a breath. She sizzled garlic in a small pan, poured in olive oil, tossed in a pinch of salt, and stirred canned tomatoes, things she knew how to make good, even simple. Logan watched, didn't help, didn't direct, just stood there like support that didn't need to touch. Dinner was tidy pasta with tomato sauce, mac and cheese for Ellie, a small salad. They ate at the low table by the sofa, an old cartoon playing Ellie's pick. Halfway through, Ellie conked out one hand, still hooked into Logan's hoodie sleeve. "She always picks a movie and never finishes it." Autumn said, her voice dropping like background music. Logan looked at Ellie's small arm, and his smile softened. In the lamp glow, Autumn noticed a version of his face. No magazine cover could catch the edge around his eyes, eased his back, sinking a half-inch deeper into the sofa, his chest sighing longer. "I'm scared," she said quietly, not meeting his eyes. Scared of hoping too much. He didn't move. He waited. "I've learned to live without a lot," she went on, "but the hardest is letting myself imagine more real home with no leaks, a future where Ellie doesn't have to watch me struggle every morning, a life where someone stays." She paused, needing air. "I shouldn't say these things." "Autumn," he cut in, his voice as gentle as a hand on a shoulder in the dark. "Let me carry that hope for the 2 of you, until you're ready to carry it yourself." It wasn't a grand line, but it was the kind of promise grown-ups can trust. No demands, no deadlines, no interest, just carrying. Autumn closed her eyes for a beat, as if hearing her heartbeat change tempo. Her shoulders dropped, her breathing deepened. Ellie stirred, but kept her fist on Logan's sleeve. There were no declarations after that. They didn't kiss. They didn't say family or love. Autumn stood and washed dishes under warm water. Logan dried and shelved them. The kitchen clinked a little with ceramic. The living room was quiet except for credits scrolling. Outside, the rain faded into mist. Before driving them over, Logan insisted to a furnished monthly rental his assistant had already secured. He folded the olive jacket and handed it to Autumn. "This smells like Ellie's citrus shampoo," he said. "A wash will erase it. You've said no need a lot." She smiled, but this time, night he finished, and they both laughed. She looked around the penthouse, neither wanting it nor fearing it. She took the jacket and helped Ellie to her feet. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me." The elevator hallway reflected three figures: a tall man in a gray hoodie, a slender black woman in an oversized shirt, a black little girl with puffs clutching the man's sleeve and looking up at the woman. The doors opened. The cab light was as warm as a kitchen lamp. They stepped in. Logan pressed G. Autumn watched the numbers tick down, mouth not smiling, but her eyes lit in a way no one teaches the look of someone who knows she still has to walk on her own, but no longer alone. Later, in the dry temporary apartment, Ellie slept with her bear, the butterfly cup on the nightstand like a small watchlight. Autumn checked her phone, 12% battery. A draft email sat open from earlier subject, still blank. She typed, "Thank you for today, for not making it complicated." Then deleted half and rewrote, "We'll carry our part. Thank you for carrying the rest until..." She didn't send it. She set the phone down and tucked in her daughter. Across the city, Logan touched the heart sticker once more before lights out. In the dark, two different places breathed the same easy rhythm, keeping each other warm with small things at exactly the right time. By morning, the city had dried. Autumn got to work earlier. The quarterly folders waited like a monumental termite nest. She pulled up a chair, opened each directory, renamed them, wrote a README, and drew a map so no one would get lost. In Logan's inbox, a reminder popped up: childcare slots, GASA, mentor track, single parents. Hayes to lead. He hit confirm. Outside the glass, a misplaced yellow butterfly beat its wings once before darting away. No one saw it, but Hector squeegeeing the window. He smiled and told no one. At Grant & Co., small actions began to link like circuitry running from a rainy night to a dry morning. And then the story would go on into new programs, into equity, into a day when Ellie might accidentally say "Daddy" as naturally as a breath. But before any of that, they had this rainy night, this warm kitchen, and a grown-up kind of promise: carry the hope until the day they're strong enough to carry it themselves. 3 months after that rainy night, Grant & Coers began speaking a new language, not loud, but carried through small actions. In the shared drive, a README file written by Autumn Hayes was pinned to the top of every key folder. Clear paths mean no one gets lost. At daycare, Ms. Patel reported capacity steadily increasing each quarter. Next to the coffee machine, the cookie box with a sticky note that read, "Take if you need," was no longer unusual. Hector Ruiz told newcomers, "Here, if you're short, speak up. Here, if you've got extra, share half." The mentor track for single parents, led by Autumn, started with a modest lunch and learn, no PR, just 4 people around a table. Tiana, a black single mother working as a nurse's aide. Marco, a Latino father, recently granted visitation rights. Lila, a young immigrant who'd been pumping milk in restroom stalls, and Autumn. She opened not with slides, but with "This lunch break is ours. If anyone's hungry, eat first." Tiana hesitated, opened a box of yesterday's cold fried chicken. Autumn smiled. "Smells good." Tiana nodded, her eyes softening. Marco asked, "Will, I get dinged for asking flexible hours." Autumn set her pen down. "Here we'll make a process so flexibility isn't treated like a flaw. If we need to rewrite the rules, we will." By the 3rd session, Jenna, the once bitter colleague, sat quietly in the back. At the end, she came forward and murmured, "I didn't..." "Look closely." Autumn met her eyes. "After looking closely, act." Jenna nodded and volunteered to draft document templates for the group. The hardest part wasn't templates, but budget. In a glass-walled room, Logan Whitmore stood beside Autumn in front of the P&L board. CFO Karen Lee flipped a page. More daycare slots, mentor track, paid hours, overall costs up 1.8%. Brenda Cole crossed her arms, sharp as ever, profit per head count will drop. Autumn didn't back down. She opened a short slide, retention, 7.2%, absenteeism, 11%, Ticket turnaround, 14%. New hire ramp time, 9 days. Real data, not flashy. But she brought more than numbers. She told how Tiana, after night shifts, could bring her child to a folding cot at the office and still hit targets. How Marco adjusted shifts thanks to flexibility and never missed his son's therapy. How Lila used a proper lactation room during breaks, no longer hiding in bathrooms. Gains from legal, muttered, optics. Logan replied, ethics answers, optics. Karen glanced back at the numbers. And if a year from now metrics don't hold, Autumn said calmly, when data shifts, we adjust, but don't make those who tremble in silence carry the cost while we wait for perfect numbers. Logan added, this investment has invisible IRR recruit retain raise. Karen studied them both a long moment, then nodded. Expand the pilot 6 months. The daycare was redone, new reading corner, thicker foam, match a wallboard for paper butterflies. Ellie stuck a yellow one like her cup and grinned dimples deep. Autumn snapped a photo, sent it to Logan without words. He sent back a heart emoji, the kind almost never seen in his phone. One morning, Autumn caught Brenda alone at the glass wall, coffee cup in hand. She was staring at the new Roots proposal pinned on the board. Are you sure this won't make the company messy? Brenda asked, her voice less sharp. Autumn answered, we're already complex. The difference is organizing it with respect. Brenda exhaled. I've always measured with one ruler. Keep the ruler. Just change the lens before you measure. They didn't hug. But from that day, Brenda stopped glancing at Ellie's curls in the elevator. By the 7th month, the pilot closed. Retention held, voluntary quits dropped, net productivity rose. Logan handwrote in his planner, board deck, new Roots. He and Autumn reviewed every chart together. I'll cover the financials, Logan said. But the people part, I want you to speak. Autumn looked at him and saw it wasn't ceremonial deference. It was real transfer of voice. At the board meeting, a silver-haired member asked, I support it, but won't the press call this? Personalizing policy, Autumn replied evenly. If personalizing means grounding it in real people and real work, I'll accept that. Policy is what locks it in place, so it doesn't depend on random goodwill. The member fell quiet, a faint smile. Karen Lee leaned back. I once opposed this. I was half wrong. Logan answered instantly. We'll fix the other half with data. The vote was quick passed by majority. On launch day, the atrium was set up like a press hall. The LED screen behind the podium read, New Roots. Autumn stood off stage clipping on her mic, her hands still damp from rinsing Ellie's bottle that morning. Logan opened brief. Today, we're not preaching morality. We're announcing a method. He gave 3 examples, folding cots instead of apologies, templates instead of complaints, a lactation room instead of secrecy. Then he stepped aside. Autumn walked on. She didn't talk about the motel or the rain. She talked about clear paths. We've done 3 things, 1 criteria, based flexible shifts, 2 expanded childcare slots and schedules, 3 mentoring with monthly goals. We measure retention performance and satisfaction, and we adjust when data says otherwise. A reporter asked, some will say, this favors a few groups. Autumn answered, favor means giving extra because you like someone. What we do is fill gaps because the system was built for only one kind of worker. Fix the tilt and everyone runs smoother. In the front row, Ellie wore a yellow dress bows on her puffs, sitting beside Hector. He insisted on attending. She waved at her mother on stage, smiling as wide as a plastic cup. Logan watched the 2 ones speaking steady, one waving, and felt the fire in his chest cool into a warm ember. That afternoon, the garden behind the building was carpeted for Family Day. A banner over the gate read, Every parent deserves a second chance. Every child deserves a future. Children ran, adults chatted. Brenda carried a tray of take-if-you-need cookies to each table. Gaines sat in a corner frowning with approval at the metrics board on a standee. Karen leaned toward Autumn. "I hear you don't like long speeches." Autumn smiled. "I prefer long work." At home, Autumn untied Ellie's bows, loosening each strand without pulling. The girl leaned on her shoulder and whispered, "Mommy, do we have new roots?" "Now." Autumn smiled, hugged her. "Yes, baby. They're called new roots." Ellie nodded and fell asleep right there, breathing even. A text came from Logan, a photo of the Family Day banner with sunlight cutting across Second Chance. No words, none needed. That night, Autumn pinned the new monthly shift chart on the fridge of the apartment that was fast becoming home. In the corner hung Ellie's drawing of a house with big windows now with a new ledge to set her butterfly cup. Elsewhere, Logan stuck a note in his planner just under the heart sticker, "New Roots Policy, not Pity." He closed the book, turned off the light. In the dark, his chest felt lighter than any summer since that 15-minute night. Saturday, the garden behind the building turned into an outdoor dance class stage for kids. Ellie wore a yellow tutu and sneakers with butterfly stickers, listening seriously as the teacher counted 5, 6, 7, 8. Logan crouched to tie her lace's fingers, deft but unhurried, the touch of someone who's learned a child's slower rhythm. A few steps away, Autumn stood with a canvas tote of cookies she'd baked in the company kitchen yesterday. She and Miss Patel borrowed the oven. A breeze lifted her puffs, revealing a patch of skin at her neck where pressure once left marks, now a smooth brown in the sun. "Mommy, Daddy, watch me." Ellie dashed into the circle legs, kicking a beat ahead of the count, the word crisp, as if it had lived in her vocabulary for ages, waiting to leap out. Autumn paused half a second as if someone had plucked a string tied straight to her heart. Logan didn't startle. He looked to her, first eyes asking, "You, okay?" Autumn gave the thinnest smile and nodded. "Watch her." They both leaned toward the circle. Daddy a word, neither discussed nor needing discussion. It happened the way leaves meet wind. During break, Ellie ran to the cookie table, split a butter cookie, fed half to Logan, and pressed the other half to her mother's lips. "Sharing," she said, mimicking Autumn's old breakroom slogan. Hector was there. He always gets invited to any event with desserts, took in the scene, and tipped his chin like, "Yep, that's right." Brenda came by to say hello and whispered, "Do the cookies say, 'Take if you need'?" Autumn smiled. "They do. Would you bring the note for me? Just call me Brenda." For the first time, Brenda dropped the Ms. with her. In the afternoon, Logan got an urgent call. The board wanted to tweak a timeline on an M&A project. He needed to stop by the office for an hour. Autumn and Ellie went along. While Logan was in the meeting, Autumn walked the halls with her daughter. Ellie stopped in front of an abstract painting, swirls of red, yellow, and blue, like the storm from that rainy day and the warm light from that night. "Mommy, what's this one called?" "Let's call it Staying." "Why?" "Because the painter didn't give up. Like you." Ellie asked, matter of fact. Autumn laughed and kissed her puffs. Logan came out early, face unstrained. He invited them to his office. The glass room looked less cold today, a Sansevieria by the door, and a child's drawing a house with big windows and a yellow butterfly pinned to the wall, whose masterpiece, Autumn, touched the paper's corner. "Wait." Logan scratched his head a little embarrassed. "I borrowed it from daycare." Ellie squealed. "It's mine." She ran over and pointed at the big butterfly. "I stuck this one." Autumn looked at Logan, her gaze warmed as if someone had poured hot water in. He grew serious, opened a drawer, and set a thick envelope on the desk. "I need precision on this," he said, handing it to Autumn. She opened it and pulled out a packet titled in bold, "Transfer of Equity Grant & Co." Below was Autumn Hayes's name. Her eyes rested there a long moment, like reading a language she'd only just learned. "Logan, it's not a gift," he said quickly, not letting her slip into awkward gratitude. "It's recognition." She looked up. "Let me finish," he said. "You designed the mentor track, measured results, built a path so others don't get lost. You changed how we see productivity. New Roots wasn't my idea, it's a system you built. And at this company, when you build value, you own a piece of that value." Optics. Autumn asked straight, no longer a question she dodged. Logan nodded. "People will talk, but optics don't write the cap table. We do. I want your daughter to grow up knowing her mom wasn't just rescued, she built. And for building, she owns." He slid over another sheet vesting terms, schedules, rights and duties, conflict of interest policy. Everything by the book, the same rigor he once used to shield himself, now used to guarantee fairness. She turned each page, hands no longer shaking, just warming. "I don't want to—" Oh, Logan smiled. "Then, let me say it in your language. Build, measure, receive. There's no debt line item here." She held his eyes a long time. In that moment, all the late-night sorting folders, the lunches split in half. The rushed mornings tying Ellie's hair, each found its place on a page of ownership. Ellie climbed onto a chair, peeking over her mother's shoulder. "Mommy, what kind of paper is that, house paper?" Autumn blurted, then laughed at how that was right and not. Logan picked it up. "Paper that shows your mom is staying here in a way nobody can carry off." Ellie nodded like she got it. She ran to grab crayons and drew a tiny heart on the corner of the photocopy. Autumn started to stop her, then didn't. "Leave it," Logan said. He pulled out his planner and placed a fresh heart sticker beside the old one, the heart from a year ago now peeling at the edge but holding. By evening, the penthouse kitchen glowed again. Autumn sliced onions. Logan washed greens. Ellie stood on a plastic stool in a butterfly apron, snapping beans in two, focused as if she were signing her own contract with dinner. "Are you scared?" Autumn asked, eyes on the cutting board. "Of what? Of them talking?" "Sure," he said, "but not scared enough to stay still." "Me neither." The word "we" didn't need to be spoken. After dinner, Ellie stared out the window and loosed a long yawn. Autumn lifted her, settled her on the sofa, and tucked in a quilt. Logan walked in with 2 mugs of tea. "What's home?" he asked as he returned. "For you, a place where someone stays when you're shaking." She answered without thinking. He nodded, eyes soft like they'd found a new color. "When you said don't wait, make, you rewired my definition of home." She smiled and brushed the back of her hand against his arm, the first touch she initiated. No fireworks, just warmth. That night, after Autumn put Ellie to sleep in the new apartment, now hung with a lemon curtain and a yellow butterfly nightlight, she opened the transfer of equity envelope again. She signed, slipped it into a waterproof sleeve. She didn't feel indebted. She felt she belonged in the sense made real when legal papers and right-timed gestures meet. Across the city, Logan looked at his planner, 2 heart stickers side by side like 2 markers on a route now clear. The next day, the internal newsletter ran a short piece on New Roots with a photo of Autumn beside the metrics board. Nothing about the equity transfer. In the break room, Jenna added another note to the cookie box. "Take if you need, and put back when you can." Hector read it and tapped the lid. There. Brenda passed by, looked, and smiled. Gaines leaned in thought about editing the wording, then didn't. People were learning through small acts. In the afternoon, Autumn took Ellie to daycare, hanging her backpack on the hook, labeled Ellie Hayes Whitmore. Miss Patel's mistake. Autumn was about to fix it, then paused. She didn't fix it yet. She texted Logan. Her name is Ellie Hayes for now. The rest, future can decide. He replied, agreed, no rush. They both looked through the glass to see Ellie run into the play kitchen corner, break a plastic cookie in half and share it with a friend. In another pane of glass, the one belonging to the years ahead, the outline of a family was coming into focus. Not hurried, not loud, but clear. Sunday morning opened in a lonely blue sky, clouds thin as lace. The Montauk Sea murmured a patient rhythm. Behind a bamboo screen, Autumn Hayes stood in a simple white dress, natural curls tied into two little puffs at her nape dotted with baby's breath. Ellie, in her familiar yellow tutu, hopped around the flower basket. Ms. Patel, self-declared chief braid officer, adjusted Ellie's bow. Princess ready, ready. Ellie lifted the basket, eyes bright as water catching sun. Across the sandy aisle, Logan Whitmore waited in a white linen shirt, pale beige pants, barefoot like everyone else. He spoke with Hector Ruiz in a borrowed navy vest tie, a little crooked Karen Lee in an emerald midi dress. Tom Gaines for once without a suit jacket. Tie loosened and Brenda Cole, ash gray dress, but eyes softer than ever. Brenda pinned a small lapel clip to Logan's shirt, engraved "Change the lens." He nodded gently. Thank you, Brenda. The word landed warm in the sand. Ukulele chords began. Ellie stepped out first, tossing petals as if trying to catch butterflies. The flowers fluttered and fell, leaving a clumsy, beautiful trail across the sand. Autumn followed, holding a bouquet of wildflowers she'd picked that morning, eyes locked with Logan's. No gasps, only the sea's hush. When she reached him, Ellie couldn't stand still. She grabbed each of their hands, looking up as though to see if the sky had lowered itself in joy. The officiant smiled. Shall we begin? Do you take this woman and her daughter into your heart, your life, and your future? The officiant asked. Logan looked at Autumn, then at Ellie, answering slow and sure, I already have. Laughter rippled softly through the seats. And do you take this man not only for yourself, but as one who stays beside your daughter, one who will carry storms with you? Autumn drew a breath, voice firm with all my heart. Ellie chimed in, small but clear. I do. The officiant chuckled, nodded. Then the couple may exchange tokens. Logan pulled from his pocket a worn heart sticker, edges peeling, and placed it in Autumn's palm. This helped me look closer at what matters, he said. Autumn clasped around his neck a golden butterfly pendant Ellie adored, teasing. This will remind you, don't wait, do. They laughed, then kissed, not rushed, not staged, long enough for Ellie to squeal, hoo, and the whole crowd to burst out laughing. After the ceremony, everyone shared a picnic lunch on the sand. Hector passed out paper cups with a note. Take if you need. Brenda brought a tray of butter cookies she'd baked herself to everyone's surprise, adding a new line and put back when you can a nod to the break room tradition. Gaines, the man of words, stood in front of a chalkboard menu reading, home, people who stay, nodding, accurate. Karen said lightly, I once opposed this, now I give you full marks. Logan answered, not marks, a path. By afternoon, they drove back to the city, at Grant & Co., headquarters. The ground floor of Wing A had been renovated into the New Roots Training Center. A white banner stretched across the entrance in bold black. Every parent deserves a second chance. Every child deserves a future. Autumn stood at the doorway with Ellie, who held plastic scissors, biting her lip nervously before cutting the ribbon a little crooked. Snap. It fell. Excellent, Logan called, and the room erupted in applause. Inside, 3 classrooms with boards, computers, and a glass-walled childcare corner. On the main wall, a chart read, Clear paths mean no one gets lost from onboarding mentor pairing, flexible scheduling to results-based reviews. Autumn led the group through each station. Here's where Tiana teaches night shift strategies. There, Marco shares his son's therapy calendar and swap system. This room is where Lila practiced her first presentation after getting a proper lactation space. Brenda stopped at the ethics review board, a 3-step process for handling optics. 1. Verify facts. 2. Cross-team review. Panel 3. Decision with public annotation. She whispered, "We should have had this long ago." Autumn replied, "Starting today, we do." At the close, Logan stepped up. "Today, we aren't writing fairy tales. We're unlocking doors." He pointed to the seats, and the people writing the story are sitting right there. Autumn followed, not telling of rain leaks or motels. She spoke of paths again, paths. If one measure cuts people out of the frame, we change the lens and measure again. We're not favoring. We're correcting tilt. When she finished, Ellie ran up and hugged her leg. Logan gave a thumbs up from below. Hector whistled. Brenda wiped dust from her eye. Gaines turned away to hide his smile. That night, the penthouse no longer echoed hollow when it rained, though it didn't rain. They cooked dinner. Autumn marinated chicken, Logan sliced onions, Ellie on her stool with a butterfly apron, snapping beans in half, like she was signing her own contract with the meal. "Are you afraid?" Autumn asked eyes on the cutting board. "Afraid of what? Afraid of them talking?" "Of course," he said. "But not afraid enough to be still." "Me neither." The word we didn't need to be said. After dinner, Ellie stretched out on the sofa yawning. Autumn sat on the rug, her daughter's head on her lap. Logan leaned against the couch planner, opened 2 heart stickers side by side, old and new. He didn't write anything. Just rested his pen on the edge of the page as if marking the finished border of a family. Late at night, Autumn opened the window. The city breeze was just enough. She looked down at the glass windows of other buildings, thinking of mothers still trembling in silence. Behind her, Ellie turned in her sleep, murmuring, "Daddy." Autumn pulled the blanket over her, met Logan's eyes. "No one said I promise. No one needed to. They were here, and they were staying." The first Saturday morning after the new route's launch, the building's backyard bloomed with white tents for a free dance class, an upgraded version of that park day long ago. Ellie showed a younger boy how to count beats. Autumn sat beside Brenda at the registration table, checking in parents. Hector handed out water and wipes, never forgetting his line, "Take if you need, share if you can." Logan walked the rows of tents, greeting each person with a new habit. Slow, steady eye contact, never rushed. In the garden corner, Marco showed photos of his son, saying "Dad" for the first time. Tiana laughed about shift swaps no longer colliding with her daughter's exam days. Lila tucked a milk bottle into the mini fridge, grinning, "Right fridge, right place, right time." None of these stories would ever hit the press, yet they were the real current flowing through the company's circuit, keeping the machinery humming smoother than any slogan. By noon, Autumn pulled Logan down the wide hall of the newly renovated wing. Sunlight slanted through high windows, painting golden stripes on the tile. "I once thought I'd never walk a hall like this with my head up," she said. "I once thought silence was home," he replied. "And now, what's home? Where someone notices you're trembling before you admit it yourself, and they stay." They turned into the new route center. Ellie raced ahead, pushing the automatic doors. They whooshed open like a ritual, sensing movement giving way. Along the hall hung the weekly mentor schedule. Autumn leading a session called Templating Kindness, folding micro-supports into process sample emails for shift changes without over-apologizing, forms for extra childcare slots, checklists for managers when a team includes single parents. "The title sounds odd," Logan teased. "I know, but it's accurate," she winked. That afternoon, Karen Lee's quarterly update came in retention, NOSH 8.1% absenteeism, 13%, time to productivity down to 28 days. Gaines sent a memo ethics review cut optics-related escalations by 40%. Recommend formalizing in handbook. Brenda sent Autumn a private chat. Thank you for waiting while I changed my lens. Autumn replied, We're not waiting on each other, we just walk. That evening, the kitchen, now truly their home's kitchen, was warm. Ellie sat on the counter legs, swinging sandwiched between Autumn and Logan. Today, I taught a kid to count 5, 6, 7, 8. Impressive, Logan said, bowing like a dancer. Tomorrow, will you teach me? And Mommy, Daddy, yes. Mommy, yes, too. Ellie ruled fair and blunt. They laughed together, the sound not loud, just filling the kitchen enough. Late that night, Autumn typed a thank you email to the mentor group. Thank you for turning kindness into small concrete steps we can repeat. Not everyone needs everything, but everyone needs a path not to get lost. She attached 3 files, shift change template manager checklist for parents on the team, updated ethics review protocol. At the end, she added, if you see something that steadies someone who's trembling, please say so. Across the room, Logan opened his planner. The 2 heart stickers still held. He penciled home HASR policy plus presence, then crossed out policy and rewrote home HASR's people who stay. He put down his pen as if signing a private deal with himself. Another weekend, the sea called. They returned to Montauk. Ellie gathered seashells, arranging them into a small house on the sand, 4 shells for walls, 1 for a door, 2 as butterflies on the roof. Our house, she said. Wind shook the shell butterflies but didn't topple them. Autumn sat beside her, steadying one corner. Logan poured a little water around the base to firm the sand. No one lectured philosophy. No one said forever. They simply kept the small house standing by small acts at the right time. On the drive back, Autumn leaned her head against the car window, watching the city appear. She thought of the marble lobby that first day, the spilled cup, the tissues, the keyboard clicks, and a cold question. She thought of the HR day, the envelope, the drawn blinds, the words, change the lens, and the tear of paper. She thought of the rainy night, a text, 15 minutes, a warm kitchen. And she thought of the moment Ellie called Daddy, as if the word had always been waiting between 2 adults, just needing to be spoken. When the car turned into the garage, the glass doors opened. They stepped into the sunlit hall. Ellie ran ahead, turned back, held out her hand. Hold hands. Autumn took one, Logan the other. The 3 walked between the golden stripes on the floor, unhurried. At the end of the hall, the new Roots door stood ajar, light spilling through. On the wall, the words, every parent deserves a second chance. Every child deserves a future. Still stood bold against white. This was no fairy tale. Fairy tales close with happily ever after. They opened every morning instead with a work schedule, a simple breakfast, a heart sticker that could peel any day but hadn't fallen yet. And each day as they passed through the automatic doors, they remembered 2 things. Don't wait, do, and stay. Enough to keep a house rooted in a city that never stops moving. On the reception desk, the cookie box had a new note, surely, Hector's take if you need. Put back when you can. Help someone who's shivering in silence. Someone took a cookie and smiled. Another dropped in a few tea bags. A chalked yellow butterfly on the corner didn't fly, but it reminded anyone passing that kindness doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It shows up, and it stays. The story of Autumn, Ellie, and Logan reminds us, don't wait, do, when you change the lens from optics to ethics. Kindness can become policy, and home is simply people who stay when you tremble in silence. Which moment struck you most? The spilled cup in the lobby, the torn resignation letter, the warm kitchen on the rainy night, or the word Daddy spoken without thought? And where will you change your lens this week so someone trembles a little less in silence? If this story touched you, hit like, share it with someone who needs a second chance, and subscribe so you won't miss the next New Roots journey.